the richest city in India is filling up with trash.
This is Asia's largest slum.
Millions live on mountains of garbage.
Everything under the sun is being recycled here.
From bottle caps to rats. It's the Hindu cycle of life and death. The miracle of trash in the magical world of Mumbai. Mumbai, one of the most exotic cities of all time. A place of history, of fortunes and empires. And now of multinational corporations. Home to the rich few and millions of poor. With a population of 21 million and growing fast, Mumbai is the 5th largest city in the world. One of the most crowded and the dirtiest. But in Mumbai, trash isn't just garbage. It's a commodity. This is the sanitation depot for the K West ward, one of Mumbai's wealthiest. Here, 700,000 live in an area roughly half the size of Manhattan. And these sanitation workers have their work cut out for them.
We leave 425 metric tons of garbage every day only for this ward.
Every day, 27,000 workers collect over 7,000 tons of trash, with help from a new fleet of garbage trucks. The old trucks used to spill garbage on their way to the dump. These modern trucks keep the trash and the smell contained.
Each vehicle has a crew of 9. It needs such a large crew because people don't leave their trash in a single place. The crew has to go out and gather it.
But the sanitation department only collects trash from half of Mumbai's residents, the richer half. That leaves tons of trash lying in the streets every day. And for savvy Indian entrepreneurs, it's a gold mine.
I collect plastic bottles, paper, glass.
She earns about $200 a month.
When I have collected enough, I sell it to the recycling plant.
She's not alone. Over 1 million undocumented Mumbai workers collect, sell, and recycle the city's trash. But trash has always had a special place in the life of Mumbai. 400 years ago, Mumbai was little more than a string of small islands. Gyan Prakash is an urban historian at Princeton University.
There were farmers and fishing communities that lived on these 7 different islands.
But then the British arrived and established headquarters here for their Indian trading empire, and they called it Bombay. Under the British, an extraordinary transformation took place. The British threw so much trash in the waters that the 7 islands of Bombay fused into one.
The creeks between the different islets get filled, various linkages were built, dams were built, swamps were filled, and by 1838, the 7 islets had been forged into a single island city.
For its British rulers, Bombay became a money machine.
It became a very flourishing port, largely on opium trade to China.
But Bombay was also filthy. The British had little interest in keeping the city clean. Today, the Brits are gone, and India has been independent since 1947, but some things haven't changed that much. Over half of Mumbai's population still lives without indoor plumbing. No toilets, no showers, no sanitation. This is Dharavi, Mumbai's largest slum. and the real-life home of the hit film Slumdog Millionaire. 1 million people live here, smack in the center of Mumbai. But like much of India, Dharvi is filled with contradictions. Deepa Kisnan is a former banker and founder of Mumbai Magic Tours.
This is Asia's largest slum. And on the surface of it, it appears like a group of people living in poverty. But when you go inside it, you find that Dharavi is an astonishing collection of enterprise. There are people here, hardworking people here, that have made a whole livelihood out of recycling.
City garbage trucks don't collect trash in Dharavi. But that's not why the garbage is piled so high. The residents import garbage from all over the city, hundreds and hundreds of tons every year. Because the industry of Dharavi is recycling.
Everything under the sun is being recycled here. Plastic, glass, bottle, metal. I'll show you some of it. Cardboard, you name it. What do you want to throw away? Anything you want to throw away, they will recycle. There's a market for everything.
This workshop specializes in bottle caps.
What he is doing is the first process of sorting. He will take away the light cap and then he'll use a magnet to find out heavier metal. Because the heavier metal fetches a higher price.
This scrap metal recycler collects copper wire from plumbers and electricians. It's a small family business, and recycling links it with the global economy.
They watch the daily metals index, the international prices of metals, and based on that price, when he's got enough collected and he thinks the price is right, then he will send it to market.
Trash is Dharavi's lifeblood, and recycling is a business that comes naturally to most Indians.
Let me tell you something about Indians. We are a very thrifty people. We don't throw things away, not if, we can get something for it.
Anywhere you go in Mumbai, you can see the recyclers of Dharavi at work, collecting waste and carrying it home.
So the impulse to throw away that shampoo bottle is simply not there. So what do? I take the shampoo bottle and I put it in a box and I leave it there for the month. Some guy will come home at the end of the month and take the bottle from me. And that's what sets recycling here apart from other places. That the market pulls it. It pulls the waste into places like this.
There are thousands upon thousands of one-room recycling factories here. These mostly family-run businesses produce a very serious $1 billion a year of goods. Dharavi's recyclers have countless ways of turning trash into cash. And perhaps their success can be traced back to one very old idea from India's Hindu religion. The idea that after death, every living thing is reborn. The same way the recycling gives new life to trash. It can even inspire art. Arnie de Connect is a Dutch artist who built this using water bottles.
We decided to do something with an item that is so commonly available in the West and so commonly here used as a recyclable item.
He wants to bring attention to Dharavi's plastic recycling industry, which he says is highly sophisticated.
A simple thing like a water bottle goes through like 15, 14 different hands while it enters Dharavi till the moment it leaves Dharavi as a new raw material.
But most Dharavians are more interested in recycling plastic than admiring it. Harinath lives and works in this one-room tool shack, where he makes capsules out of recycled plastic. About 6,000 of them a day. Not far away, women and children fill the capsules with a paste made from limes. The capsules sell for less than 5 cents. The paste is mixed with chewing tobacco. A product that sells all across the country. At the end of this alleyway, a family recycles cooking oil cans. The cans are reused 7 or 8 times until they start to rust. Then they're flattened and sent on their way. Recycling creates jobs for Dharavi's poor. But it also plays an important role behind the scenes of Mumbai's movie business.
It's very different from designing for fashion and designing for movies, because designing for movies, it's more of what you deliver.
Bollywood makes over 1,000 movies a year and generates a huge demand for costumes. Stylist Moise Kapadia has discovered how recycling clothing can make him very popular with his producers.
When we're working for movies, there are a lot of times their budget restraints, their budget cuts off. It makes more sense that you come to places like this and pick up this stuff which is already used.
Clothing collected from Mumbai households, much of it destined for the trash. But in the hands of these recyclers, it will find a new life. The garments are inspected, buttons are reattached, seams repaired. The fabric is dyed to bring the colors back to life. Scrubbed clean, stains removed. Everything pressed and folded like new and ready to be sold.
After the ironing, it's ready to go off in the market. Anywhere in India, bazaars or anywhere. It's off the streets and bazaars, and it's cheap for everybody.
These hard workers eat their meals together, and some even sleep here too. But all over the city, the trash keeps on piling up, making more work and opportunities for its residents. Even the pigs who live off the garbage in the streets. Mumbai was built on trash. Today, trash feeds an entire economy based on recycling and provides a way of life not just for millions of people, but also millions of rats. And while many Hindus believe in the sanctity of life, even the most holy draw the line at deadly disease. Mumbai controls its rat population the old-fashioned way, by hunting them down one by one. They call themselves the night rat killers. Vijay Boyer is a veteran rat killer, one of 44 employed by the city.
Wherever there's trash, you'll find rats, that's for sure.
Vijay and the rat killers work only after dark.
We don't wear shoes because they make too much noise. We have to move quietly when stalking the rats. And that means going barefoot.
His only weapons are a stick and a flashlight. Rat killers have a nightly quota of 30 dead rats. They're paid 20 cents for each one.
If I don't bring in my share of rats, I don't get paid. And I have to make up for it later.
Altogether, the rat hunters count some 350,000 kills a year. But even that's not enough. The rat population is still on the rise, and the city needs dozens more rat killers just to keep up. Vijay is one of the most seasoned veterans, on the prowl for 15 years. And like all the old pros, he never touches a rat with his bare hands. Rats are known to transmit one of the deadliest diseases known to science, the bubonic plague, or the Black Death. The first plague struck Mumbai over 100 years ago, when British colonials called Mumbai Bombay. The city was the jewel of the British Raj, its economy based on cotton mills and foreign trade. But the Indian laborers had no share in the wealth.
the workers started living in these very badly built, poorly ventilated tenements, which are called chawls, 8 to 10 to a room.
The tenements were breeding grounds for disease. In 1896, a local doctor alerted authorities that he'd been seeing patients who presented symptoms of the bubonic plague. Carried by the rats that infested the filthy, trash-ridden workers' districts, the Black Death spread quickly.
British observers called Bombay the city of the dead because there were so many people dying.
Thousands died in the overcrowded workers' quarters, and panic began to spread.
There was just general fear that ran through the city, and people started leaving in any way they could.
When the shrinking workforce threatened to cripple the city's economy, the British finally took notice.
The only way in which the British could contain this was take patients to the hospitals and quarantine them.
As the hospitals began to overflow with the dead and dying, city officials put out a call to a pioneer in the emerging science of microbiology, Dr. Waldemar Haffkine. Working in a makeshift laboratory, Dr. Haffkine developed a vaccine in just 3 months. And to prove it was safe, Dr. Haffkine administered the first injection to himself. His vaccine turned the tide in the Bombay epidemic. Dr. Haffkine's compound still stands in the Parel neighborhood of Mumbai. Today, the Haffkine Institute develops antidotes for poisonous snakes like the king cobra. But they also work with the night rat killers. Every morning, they bring in part of their catch to the Institute. Dr. Abhay Chowdhury is director of the Institute.
What we do here is we catch the rats from different wards in Mumbai.
First, the animals are checked for germ-carrying fleas, then dissected and analyzed.
They are dissected out here for the presence of any plague in these rats, whether they are infected or not.
If plague germs are found on the rats, it will show up in their livers. The rats are the city's early warning system. The Institute examines about 5% of the rats caught by the rat killers, almost 18,000 animals a year. The last outbreak of bubonic plague in India was 1994. But the rat killers keep killing to make sure it doesn't happen again. Mumbai is the city where trash never dies. Recycling powers the economy and creates jobs for the urban poor. But not every Mumbai trash worker wants to spend all day recycling plastic bottles and old clothes. Some would rather hunt for gold. This is the legendary Zaveri Bazaar, Mumbai's gold market. It's one of the largest gold markets in the world. Over 16,000 goldsmiths, retailers, and street vendors produce, trade, and sell gold jewelry here. For centuries, India's volatile currency markets have made gold the safest investment. But gold also has great social importance here, particularly for wedding gifts. Kumar Jain is the vice president of the Jewelers Association.
The country which you have come to is the highest consumer of the gold around the world.
There's a side to the Zaveri Bazaar that most people never see. This is one of the hidden workshops where skilled craftsmen turn gold into jewelry. These are the Bengali goldsmiths, renowned for their legendary craftsmanship. As they work the precious metal, a few tiny particles of gold are lost, carried out of the workshops and into the streets. These little specks of nearly invisible dust settle into every nook and cranny. Amana Fontanella Khan is a journalist who has written about Mumbai's gold market.
The gold dust is everywhere in this area. So it's in the water, it's just on the street, in the dirt.
That's where these people come in. They're urban prospectors, sifting through the city's trash and dirt, panning for gold dust. They're called gold dust sweepers.
Gold dust sweeper is a person he's a street sweeper. That's his main job. You know, he's just sweeping the streets. But on top of that, he's also retrieving valuable gold dust from the dirt that he's collecting.
Sundil has been a gold sweeper for 10 years. He's been doing this since he was 14 years old. Sometimes he's lucky enough to find a tiny nugget or a speck of gold. But most of the particles are microscopic.
Finding the gold dust is like finding a needle in a haystack. And it seems like a total impossible search, and it seems hopeless, but there is a method that they follow.
Much of the gold dust ends up trapped in the clothes of the goldsmiths when they leave work at the end of the day. Sundil does his prospecting outside the homes of the goldsmiths, where open drains empty into the streets. This raw sewage is the Klondike for gold sweepers.
So obviously the material that he's sifting through is just wastewater. A lot of wastewater contains gold dust, just sometimes from the actual bodies of the goldsmiths in the area. When they're showering and when they're washing their hands, that will go out into the wastewater.
In the final stage of the process, the wastewater is mixed with toxic mercury and boiled. The tiny particles of gold clump together into small nuggets. It's slow, patient, painstaking work.
It's not done in one day. We collect wastewater for a month, then we process it.
The final product, a handful of tiny gold nuggets that Sundil can sell back to the jewelers.
He may well retrieve 2 to 3 grams of gold, which is about $75 worth.
Gold sweepers have been mining the streets and sewers of Mumbai for almost 200 years. But another kind of forager also lives off the trash on Mumbai's streets. The rag pickers. They sift through garbage for anything that can be recycled. Vinod Sethi is the director of the Acorn Foundation, an NGO that works with rag pickers in Mumbai's slums.
The work of rag picking has traditionally been done by lower caste people, by the poorest of poor.
The job of rag picking is frowned upon by much of Indian society.
In this society, in the Hindu society especially, there is a caste system. And in that caste system, it was always the lowest caste who would handle waste.
Rag pickers are the foot soldiers of Mumbai's recycling phenomenon.
This is the kind of work which people do when they have no other source of income. This is an invisible workforce.
Mumbai's trash economy is an equal opportunity employer. Men and women, young and old, anyone who can work, works. Even the children.
There is a boy there who is working because he is one of the earning members for his family. He could easily be in school, and he must be in school.
13-year-old Afsar goes to school every day from 7 in the morning until 1 p.m. He lives here, in a one-room rented shack with his mother and 7 brothers and sisters. Afsar's mother explains that since her husband died, the family had to take up rag picking to make ends meet. While caring for the children, she manages to earn about $12 a month at odd recycling jobs. Afsar's job involves sorting through piles of trash and separating different types of plastic. He taps each piece of plastic on a rock, listening for the sound that tells him where it goes.
The knowledge about each of this plastic is what brings value to this scrap. And that is his special knowledge, which he has learnt at this young age of 13, as to what are the different grades of plastic which comes into the trash.
Afsar works for a middleman who supplies him with plastic trash and buys everything he sorts.
And by the time this sack is full, by evening, Afsar would have earned $3.
Vinod Shetty's dream is to help the trash workers of Dharavi organize and win the respect and dignity they deserve.
This entire recycling hub is not the best place to work. It's not the best conditions. It's dirty, it's unhygienic, there are occupational hazards.
Rag pickers have long been ignored by Indian society and tolerated by the government. But now the city is beginning to look for ways to help them. In another part of Mumbai, an experiment is underway that could change the lives of rag pickers for the better. This is one of Mumbai's 14 new recycling centers. Rag pickers sell their dry waste here, but the best part of this deal is they've cut out the middleman. These young men operate the plastic shredding machines.
I cut up bottles and all sorts of things. We can recycle any kind of plastic scrap here.
The shredded plastic is sold to an industrial recycler. Seema Redkar is a Mumbai city official.
Here they sort the dry waste into paper, metal, scrap, plastic. Everything is segregated and then sold to the recyclers.
Ramdia gathers trash from 3 or 4 apartment buildings. He makes 17 cents a kilo for plastic, 9 cents for paper or aluminum foil. Altogether, he makes about $70 a month to support a wife and 3 children.
What else can I do? I have children to feed, there are no other jobs, and I am not an educated person.
Ramdia's only asset is his bicycle.
I took out a loan to buy it, and at the end of each day, I make a payment on the loan.
Recycling has helped make Mumbai one of the fastest growing cities in Asia. But all these people and all the waste they produce have given the city a nasty case of indigestion. And the city's sanitation system is in trouble. Mumbai's population of 21 million has outgrown its old and crumbling sewer system. Sewage is leaking into the water supply. It's an old problem that goes back to the colonial period. When Bombay grew rich from the profits of spices and opium. But the merchants had little interest in spending money on sanitation.
Bombay was really a cesspool with open sewers, open drains, sewers, flushing out onto the surroundings.
The British built Mumbai's first sewers, but only just enough for the ruling classes. No one wanted to spend the huge sums to provide sanitation for everyone else.
It was estimated in the 1860s that Bombay had only 14 miles of sewage lines. And you compare to London at that time, it had 700 miles.
The Great Mithi River became an open sewer. Once a tidal waterway that refreshed the city with its cool, fragrant waters, the Mithi is now one of the most polluted bodies of water in the world. Because Mumbai never built a complete sewer system, today indoor plumbing is a luxury that only a few can afford. In this city of 21 million, it's estimated that over 5 million people don't have access to a toilet. Their only option is to defecate in public. On the beaches, by the side of the road, on the banks of the Mithi River, anywhere they can. It's a problem that's plagued India for decades. Tushar Gandhi is the great-grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of Indian independence. He heads the Mahatma Gandhi Foundation.
Bapu, during his lifetime, wrote a lot about hygiene and sanitation.
Gandhi led the non-violent revolution that forced the British out of India. But he also championed a less glamorous struggle to improve India's hygiene, which he believed was to blame for disease and pestilence. Tushar Gandhi reads from his great-grandfather's writings on sanitation.
And he said that the lavatories of even the poorest of the poor ought to be as clean and neat as the libraries or kitchens of the rich or affluent.
And promised full self-government to India.
Gandhi won India's independence, but building enough toilets for India's 350 million bottoms was a losing battle.
Indian society has, even today, 63 years after independence, where really effective, useful sanitation facilities are denied to a large part of its population even now.
After waiting for years for the government to build new sewers, some residents are taking matters into their own hands. This is Kolset, once a tiny village, now a suburb of the ever-expanding Mumbai. The village cobbler makes house calls. The paperboy delivers the morning newspaper. The spice man sells paprika, cardamom, and turmeric. And the milkman cares for his herd much as his ancestors did generations ago. But there's one thing the people of Kolset do a little differently than their parents. In the bad old days, residents could only rely on this cramped and filthy facility. It was far too small to accommodate Kolset's growing population, so lots of people had to go outside. But all that changed when the village, in partnership with local NGOs and the municipal government, built this new community bathroom.
There's a cleanliness. Compared to before, it's really beautiful.
Greta still remembers the old public bathroom.
The facilities weren't all that good. In fact, they were much worse.
In exchange for maintaining the toilets, Vijay Solanki and his wife Hira receive a one-room apartment, free utilities, and a small salary.
My wife takes care of the ladies section, and I take care of the men's.
Like many occupations in India, Vijay inherited the job from his late father.
My father lived here for 50 years. He used to clean the old toilet.
Vijay and Hira and their families belong to the Dalit caste, the so-called untouchables. They consider themselves fortunate to have secure jobs. And it seems like everyone in the village is happy with their new, clean toilets, too.
All the garbage is being cleaned, and very good work is being done.
The story of Kolset's new toilets shows that if you build it, they will come and squat. Mumbai is one of the brightest jewels of Asia, working hard to clean up the streets and rivers and provide a toilet for everyone. But the best way to get rid of trash is to throw away less and save more. And that's what they're doing at the legendary Chor Bazaar, one of the oldest and largest flea markets in India, where you can buy almost anything old and new, from secondhand clothing to electronics and tires. On some days, over 100,000 visitors stroll through these crowded streets. This shop buys, repairs, and resells horns. Because in Mumbai, anyone brave enough to drive in the traffic needs a good loud horn. Horns for cars, buses, trucks, and bicycles. Big horns and small horns of every size and note. For every vehicle in a city that loves to honk. Locals call it the thieves' market, but no one really knows if or how much of the merchandise is stolen. Spokesman Afsal Wadagma explains.
If the car is not in use, like the parts in Mumbai, so they get it over here, they remold it, they make it into scrap, and once again, they sold it.
Hot or cold, chopped or not, the bottom line is the same. Anything that can be fixed can be recycled and sold over and over again.
They look at the things, what is the minor mistake, and they make it perfect, and once again, they get back to the market.
The incredible recyclers of the Chor Bazaar are making it almost impossible to throw anything away. And they've been doing it for generations.
They are here from more than 100 years. So their forefathers, that's going from their time.
And now, some of Mumbai's slipperiest residents are helping to turn the city's food scraps into fertilizer. This is one of Mumbai's new composting facilities. 3 tons of waste from produce markets arrive by truck every day. First, it's mixed with a cocktail of cow dung and water and left to cook in the hot sun. Next, the mixture is moved into cool beds of soil. And workers toss in handfuls of Eisenia fetida, aka red wiggler earthworms. The wiggler's appetite for trash is legendary. No small detail, because what actually gets sold as fertilizer is the worm's manure. These worms defecate some of the best nutrient-rich feces known to man.
It looks and smells exactly like tea powder.
The center's 2.6 million worms produce 30 tons of worm manure a month.
This is a truly natural product, and you can use it for growing anything, like vegetables.
While the recycling worms of Mumbai stuff themselves with tons of garbage and cow dung, some of Mumbai's greenest entrepreneurs are investing in cannibalism, machines that eat machines. This is the Eco Shredder, and it recycles electronic trash, computers, printers, fax machines. BK Soni is the managing director of Eco Rico.
This machine shreds them into smaller pieces to segregate the complicated elements like aluminium, steel, copper, plastic.
By the time these computer parts hit the conveyor belt, they've already been weighed and sorted. Everything that can't be sold as is goes up the conveyor belt into the mouth of the shredder, into the steel jaws of 2 heavy-duty blades that gobble up about 1,500 kilograms of machines per hour. A magnet separates the plastic from the metals. A few employees carefully do the rest, sorting out valuable metals like aluminum and copper.
After the material has been recovered and segregated, all the other elements, they are being sold to the smelters for reuse.
Chances are recycling machines like this will never go hungry, because India produces about 1 million tons of electronic waste every year. They're even taking it on the road with a mobile shredder for computer hard drives. City officials and companies from India and around the world are always looking for new ways to make money out of trash. And this Mumbai company has developed a technology that's almost too good to be true. The engineers at Sustainable Technologies and Environmental Projects Limited have figured out a way to turn plastic into petroleum. T. Raghavendra Roy is the company's founder.
We have been able to come out with a process that actually not only cracks the plastics and various other kind of waste materials, but also convert that into hydrocarbon fuels.
Roy calls his machine the polycracker. It's a high-tech solution for the 400 tons of plastic waste the city produces every day.
But the end result is fuel that can be further modified to provide us with the diesel, gasoline, and kerosene.
First, the plastic trash is melted down and converted into a gas. The gas is run over a catalyst that breaks down the large molecules into smaller ones, which are condensed into gasoline and other fuels. And there's another benefit. The entire process creates enough energy to power itself. But that's not all. The polycracker can turn almost any kind of trash, not just plastic, into fuel.
We have started including the rubber, waste rubber, rubber tires, then various other waste.
But Rao isn't satisfied with that. He has even more ambitious recycling plans. He wants to recycle something fundamental to daily life: water.
We have started consuming more and more water, but we are not recycling the water for reuse.
He starts with something Mumbai has a lot of: sewage. He adds a mixture of natural clays and an oxygen compound. Within seconds, the toxic bacteria are dying out and the sediments have sunk to the bottom. A simple filter removes the sediment. The recycled water isn't potable without further treatment, but it has many household uses.
Even though we do not recommend it for drinking, we can still use it for various other purposes like gardening, for growing the lawns. You can use it for washing the floors, washing your automobiles.
Rao's invention could reduce domestic water consumption by 70%. From the gold sweepers of Mumbai's gutters and alleys to the magic of India's brightest entrepreneurs, the city embodies the Hindu faith in reincarnation and is fast becoming the recycling capital of the world. But there's one thing in Mumbai that's in chronically short supply and which can't be recycled: land. The result? A shortage of office space is driving Mumbai's property prices as high as Manhattan's.
What we see behind us is one of the most expensive pieces of real estate surrounding Mumbai.
Real estate speculators and developers are targeting the heart of Mumbai's recycling miracle: the neighborhood called Dharvi. Dharvi is a stone's throw from Mumbai's most expensive business district, the Bandra Kurla complex, headquarters for many of the city's top corporations. The land occupied by the tool shops and homes of the working poor of Dharvi is a gold mine. And the developers are pressuring the city to relocate the people and recycle the neighborhood.
About 75 years for the people to fill up this land, build their township, build their houses, and now the real estate developers want this piece of land.
If developers have their way, Dharvi's slum dwellings will be replaced by shopping malls, office buildings, and condominiums. Many of the current residents would be given free apartments in new high-rises. But there would be no room for workshops and factories.
The city doesn't care as to who recycles their waste, as long as it's being done.
But the residents of Dharvi have drawn a line in the trash. They've lobbied hard against the plan and even managed to stall the project. But it is once again moving forward. In another part of Mumbai, the desperate hunger for land and the crushing burden of the city's trash has led to a greener outcome. Here is proof that in India, almost anything can be reborn. This is the former Gorai dump, one of Mumbai's 4 giant trash dumps. This was one of Mumbai's most toxic landfills. But now, it's undergone a nearly miraculous transformation. The Gorai renovation has helped regenerate Mumbai's threatened mangroves. Methane generated by trash rotting underground is captured and burned off, earning the city millions of dollars through an international carbon credit plan. It's all in keeping with the Mumbai credo that where there's trash, there's money to be made. And that, thanks to the genius of its engineers and entrepreneurs, the energy of its rag pickers and recyclers, both rich and poor. In Mumbai, almost any dream, no matter how green, can come true.
I don't know what to say, really. One day is all it takes to make the commitment. And either we grow as a club, or we're gonna crumble, whisker by whisker, until we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. And we can stay here, get the snot shaved out of us, or we can climb our way back into society. We can climb our way out of hell, 1 month at a time.
But coach, my wife won't let me grow a beard.
Erroneous!
Same with my boss, coach.
Erroneous on all accounts! You're grown men, for the love of God. These are your faces, not theirs.
But coach, what if I don't like the way I look with a beard?
Don't you say that. Don't you ever say that. You grow your beard as long as you can. And cherish it. Don't let your visage be a mirage.
Visage? I will. I'll grow it.
In this club, we fight for that growth. In this club, we tear ourselves and everyone around us to pieces for that growth. We stroke with our fingertips for that growth. Because we know when we add up all of that growth, that's gonna make the bloody difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. And I know I'm willing to fight and die for that growth. Because that's what living is. The scruff sprouting right out of your face. Now I can't make you grow it. You gotta look at the guy next to you. You gotta look into his eyes. And I think you're gonna see a guy that'll grow that beard with you. Because when it comes down to it, you do the same for him, and I do the same for you. That's the Beard Club, gentlemen. Let it grow. And either we grow now as a club, or we will perish as clean-shaven individuals. Now what are you gonna do?